Bullied for being weak, he is trained by demons and becomes overpowered. The anime kicks off with a guy named Shinsuke Hyoudou gearing up to take on 3 thugs when he realizes they're talking to others. A girl urges the trio to quit their thug life and get a real job, but the guys mock her, demanding her and her brother's belongings. So the guy nails one of them with his stick, taking off the 3. Then he scatters some papers on the ground, activating magic that makes 3 giant hands rise and punch each of the thugs. The guy enjoys how he sent them flying, but his sister isn't amused and scolds him for taking down the thieves. They needed to find their leader, but the guy says the thugs are unlikely to spill that info. Since questioning the guys is now out of the picture, they decide to leave. Shinsuke watches them from afar, intrigued to know more about them, impressed by the guy's technique. The girl hears Shinsuke in the bushes but keeps quiet, continuing on her way. Sometime later, they stop by a stream to drink water and eat. However, the girl is fed up with being observed and throws a stone at Shinsuke. After getting hit, he leaves his hiding spot and introduces himself, explaining he's a warrior on a training journey. The girl asks why he's following them, and Shinsuke explains that he saw how they dealt with the thugs and wants to know the brother's technique. Still, the guy refuses to spill the beans. They continue on their way, but Shinsuke says he knows where the bandit leader is and proposes a deal. They explain their technique, and he'll reveal the leader's location. The guy agrees, introducing himself as Jinka, a Sendu monk, and his sister, a fox yokai named Tama. They're sworn siblings, and the technique involves talismans infused with spiritual power. Shinsuke laughs at them, but Tama terrifies him with a snake, threatening to throw it unless he shows the way to the bandit leader. Quickly, Shinsuke agrees to guide them, and Tama puts the snake on the ground, transforming it into a branch. Sometime later, the 3 reach the place where the bandits gathered, and Shinsuke explains they are the Over-Helmet Gang, a notorious criminal faction in the region. He reveals their leader is a helmeted guy, rumored to have the strength of an ogre or even hidden horns. Tama notices Shinsuke knows a lot about the gang, and Jinka guesses he aims to gain fame by hunting and capturing criminals. Shinsuke says it's a good plan to help him train and questions them, mocking him for it when they seem to do the same. However, Tama clarifies that she and her brother have a goal, refusing to reveal it to someone who trembles in fear over a simple snake, taunting Shinsuke. The warrior gets irritated, claiming his fear of snakes is an exception, and could easily take down the bandit leader if he wanted. However, Shinsuke ends up shouting so loudly that all gang members hear his threat. Right away, the 3 find themselves surrounded by bandits, but the brothers don't mind as they didn't intend to stay hidden forever. Tama reminds Jinka that their goal is to teach the thieves a lesson. So they approach the leader, and Tama states that they come to say that what they're doing is wrong. She tells the bandits to stop committing crimes, but everyone laughs at the girl. Jinka gets ready to act, but she signals him to wait. She begins to give a speech about how the bandits will regret their actions in the future, urging them to change their lives and create a world of charity and cooperation for a peaceful life. After finishing, Tama acts as if she delivered a brilliant speech, and Shinsuke can't believe she sought out the leader just to say those things. The gang tries to attack the girl, but Jinka protects her, stating that humans aren't worth all the effort. However, Tama tells him to stop being so short-tempered. Next, the leader orders his gang to attack. In an instant, the girl leaps out of the way so her brother can handle the bandits, leaving Shinsuke once again impressed with both of them. After all, nobody dared to mess with that gang while they handled it calmly. At that moment, one of the guys tries to attack him, leaving the boy terrified. Despite the fear, he manages to strike the bandit with his sword, splitting his helmet in half. This boosts Shinsuke's confidence to face the leader. He draws his sword and makes his move, but suddenly 2 hands emerge from the helmet, grabbing the warrior's weapon and tossing him aside. A grumpy face emerges from the helmet, complaining about having to appear, terrifying the bandits. The monster makes it clear that it will kill anyone trying to escape. Tama recognizes it as a Katawara, a term encompassing supernatural creatures, ghosts, and other inhuman entities. Jinka deduces it's a strong one, having stayed hidden for quite some time. He contemplates defeating it with transfiguration, although admitting he'll feel guilty for being a Katawara. Tama doesn't care if it's human or Katawara, as long as those persisting in villainy are punished. The creature tries to attack, but they easily evade, and Tama releases a liquid on her hand, causing her brother to transform using transfiguration. It's a technique where the user harmonizes with the spirit of a Katawara, transforming partially into it. Jinka becomes much stronger in his spiritual form. The Katawara orders the gang to attack, but Jinka effortlessly deals with the bandits and faces the monster using only his staff, impressing Shinsuke once again. Jinka approaches the Katawara and attacks, but its hands hold the staff just like they did with Shinsuke's sword. It prepares to strike with its other pair of hands. However, the monk uses his strength and manages to execute his move, toppling the Katawara and splitting the helmet in half. This frees the soul of the man the monster was using, allowing it to move on to the afterlife. Shinsuke asks again about the brothers' objective. Tama explains that she likes humans and has become accustomed to eliminating those dedicated to evil, while Jinka says he just goes along with her. Tama declares that they are the siblings of world renewal. Later, they continue on their way and Shinsuke follows them. Thinking he never imagined that Kadawara has existed, feeling as if he has just discovered a new and amazing world. At this moment, he notices the two entering a house and deduces that they intend to spend the night there. Later, inside the place, a guy warns everyone to stay away from a road because he encountered a monster there in the afternoon. He recounts that Saren, a monk of the Dangyashu, tried to defeat Kadawara, which he called Shakugan, the man-devourer, but the monk lost the fight. The man sketches the monster and one of the Dangyashu recognizes Shakugan. Everyone gets upset because he killed Saren, and they inform that the monks of the Dangyashu order will handle the case and no one else should interfere. Shinsuke observes the conversation and warns Jinka that they might try to exterminate Tama if they find out she is a fox yokai, but Jinka says they already know. Tama explains that Dangyashu is an order of warrior monks that cultivate spiritual power to confront Kadawaras, and they don't kill without reason, only pursuing those who pose a threat to humans. Shinsuke notes that they both understand the matter well, and Tama explains that they have been in this life for a long time. She asks where the boy intends to go for his training to find out if he is not interested in helping them in the world's renewal. Shinsuke declines the invitation, pretending he wasn't following them, saying they went the same way only by coincidence, and he will spend the night with them just because it got late. Jinka shows impatience with the warrior, but Tama observes that Shinsuke showed determination when he tried to attack the Kadawara from the gang. In the middle of the night, Shinsuke gets up to train a bit because he wanted to get stronger. He was the son of a samurai, but when he was young, he was mocked by other children for being weak. Now this sword strike made the Kadawara reveal itself, making Shinsuke wonder if he could defeat such monsters. The warrior thinks he can follow his path with the Dangyashu or with the two brothers to become stronger and capable of defeating monsters. At that moment, Tama appears, guessing his thoughts, and throws him into the water. Jinka also appears and explains that his sister was worried that Shinsuke had gone out in the middle of the night to try to steal from someone. She admits that she worried for nothing, but Jinka didn't care because for him, it was just a great opportunity to mess with a human. Jinka leaves Shinsuke trembling with fear, but Tama reprimands her brother's behavior and explains to the warrior that that's just how he is. In the middle of the conversation, the girl feels sleepy and goes to sleep, acting like a child, making Shinsuke think he would learn more by staying with the Dangyashu. The next day, the warrior wakes up and realizes that everyone else had already gotten up and gone after Kadawara, which they call Shakugan. So he hurries to catch up with the group because he wanted to witness another battle against a monster. He manages to catch up with everyone but realizes that the situation is a bit tense. He decides it's better to hide and observe from a distance. One of the Dangyashu tells Jinka to stay out of worldly matters because they should be resolved by humans. Still, he responds that since the monks intend to harm a Kadawara, a good reason must be presented. Another Dangyashu replies that it's obvious that a Kadawara that harms people is evil, but Jinka says that if they are going to analyze the story only based on that, then humans are the villains. Tama catches her brother's attention again and asks the Dangyashu why Shakugan is hurting humans, but they refuse to answer, saying the temple instructed them not to discuss the matter. Jinka becomes irritated with so much secrecy, and Shinsuke observes that the boy truly hates humans, unlike his sister, who likes them and wants to make the world a better place. Suddenly, Shakugan appears behind Shinsuke, and the boy is startled to see how large the monster is. One of the Dangyashu pulls the warrior out of the way for the others to attack, and Jinka becomes annoyed to see that Shinsuke was spying on them once again. Next, the Dangyashu attempt to restrain Shakugan with their spiritual power. While Shinsuke is impressed, Jinka is relieved to know that they won't be able to defeat Kadawara with just that power. Shakugan manages to break free, leaving Jinka excited. However, Tama instructs her brother to help the Dangyashu. The boy dislikes the idea of helping humans but obeys the girl's requests and confronts the monster with his staff. Shinsuke is impressed with his power, and Tama asks if the warrior still wants to get involved with them because they live in that world of darkness. This only makes Shinsuke more excited because he knew he could become stronger alongside them. Jinka continues to face Shakugan, using talismans infused with his spiritual power, creating several hands that strike the monster. However, when he was about to defeat Kadawara, the boy notices something on Shakugan that captures his attention. The monster tries to attack Jinka. The boy swiftly dodges the blow and then rushes away with both Dangyashus to get out of there. Shinsuke is frozen with fear and almost gets left behind, but in the end, they all manage to escape while Jinka's giant hands hold on to Shakugan. Now in safety, Shinsuke remarks that he's impressed by Jinka's fast running, especially while carrying the two monks. Tama explains that it's thanks to the training his brother received from someone named Kokugetsusei, and the Dangeshu recognized the name of the monk Sendo, being impressed to learn that the boy is his apprentice. One of them, with an X-shaped scar on his forehead named Inga, mentions that Kokugetsusei has defeated countless sorcerers and evil spirits. Rumors have it that no human or Katawara has faced him and survived, earning him the title of the Phoenix Slayer. The man asks how Jinka managed to be trained by such a legend, and the boy explains that Kokugetsusei raised him from a young age, so he didn't have to do much to learn from him. Next, Tama makes it clear to the monks that they would be dead if not for her brother, and as a way to repay the favor, they must tell everything they know about the Katawara they call Shakugan. They agree, but Inga warns that they'll regret attacking the creature once they know the truth. He explains that Shakugan is a human spiritually modified and Shakugan is her real name. His partner, Ohao, continues explaining that the Dangeshu are trying to turn humans into Katawaras to reinforce their military power, and the girl was an experimental super soldier created by the main temple of the Dangeshu. Tama asks how she turned into a monster, and Ohao explains that they recruited peasants with spiritual potential for experiments. Shakugan among them went out of control during the procedure and escaped. He tells that after her escape, she returned to her village and killed all the residents, probably out of resentment for the discrimination and mistreatment she suffered for having spiritual energy. Inga explains that Shakugan left the bodies so disfigured that it was impossible to identify the dead, and she likely continues to roam the region in search of other survivors. After hearing the whole story, Shinsuke is furious with how the samurais and monks treat peasants like trash and treat the lives of the weak as if they have no value, needing to be strong and important to be valued. Ohao says it was never their intention for things to end up that way, thinking they were helping her as she was mistreated by the villagers. This only angers Shinsuke even more, questioning how the Dangeshu thought turning Shakugan into a monster was helping her. The monk explains that they intended to make her a member of the monastery, but after she fled, she eliminated her village and the Dangeshu they sent after her. Therefore, she stopped being a victim, and their goal changed to eliminating Shakugan. Shinsuke starts yelling at them again, but Tama kicks him and says it's a job for the Brothers of World Renewal. The man starts saying they shouldn't get involved as it's a Dangeshu matter, but the girl questions if they can handle Shakugan. Inga admits they need reinforcements to deal with the problem and accepts the help of the brothers. Then Shinsuke asks if Jinka will let others decide for him. The boy responds that he doesn't mind and will try to solve the problem with a good hit. And so they go outside and the two brothers use the transfiguration technique. Tama makes her hand bleed, and after Jinka ingests a drop and harmonizes his spirit with his sister's powers, he partially transforms into a fox yukai, while the girl's hair turns black. Inga immediately recognizes Kokugetsusei's secret technique, remembering reading about transfiguration, but comments that, at best, Jinka will only be able to fight on equal terms with a modified human. Suddenly, Shakugan appears, and they realize the creature followed them there. Jinka prepares to fight, and then starts hitting the Katawara with his staff repeatedly, although he's clearly holding back. The monks observe that Jinka isn't giving his all, and knowing Shakugan is quite resilient, they think it might not end well for the boy. At that moment, the Katawara lands a blow on Jinka and prepares to launch a powerful attack, a Dangeshu secret technique called the Roar of Celestial Tremor. The monks are worried about the boy, while Tama remains confident that the attack won't even tickle her brother. Jinka sees the attack approaching and uses the giant hand technique called the Earthly Fist of the Monarch to break the attack and hit right in the middle of the Katawara. And so the creature shatters into 1,000 pieces, making the boy think he went overboard. However, thanks to the attack, Shakugan manages to return to being human. They run to see the unconscious girl, but the two monks tell the kids to step back, saying she's under the custody of the Dangeshu. Shinsuke immediately prepares to fight, but Inga decides it's best to leave since he wasn't willing to face Jinka's powers. And so, after Uhu agrees and they begin to leave, the boy releases his power, returning him and his sister to normal. However, Tama calls the monks to say that all the culprits deserve punishment. She asks the two to show them where the main temple of the Dangeshu is, the place that conducted experiments with humans, so they can pay, surprising the monks. Inga explains that they have over 300 monks inside the temple, thinking that this would make the brothers give up. However, Jinka is pleased with the idea of beating up 300 monks at once. Realizing they wouldn't change their minds, Inga instructs the two to ask Shakugan for the location, but makes it clear that when the time comes, the Dangeshu will confront them with full force. And so the monks leave, and Shinsuke thinks that Tama and Jinka must be crazy to want to face all the Dangeshu in the temple alone. After some time, Shakugan finally wakes up. Tama and Shinsuke ask how she's feeling, and the girl is confused about what's happening, asking if the spiritual surgery is over. They introduce themselves, and since she doesn't remember anything, Jinka asks her to recount the last thing she remembers. Shakugan recounts that she had just harvested some vegetables when she returned to her village and saw her father talking to a monk. He was happy, holding a good amount of money, barely looking at her before leaving her alone with the monk. The man says he knows she wants to belong somewhere since she's mistreated by everyone in the village, and he has what she wants. After that, the monk took her to the mountains, promising everything would be resolved when she woke up and put her to sleep. That's the last thing she remembers. Shinsuke gets furious with the monks again, and Shakugan asks what she's doing in that place. Jinka explains that after the operation, she went out of control and escaped from the Dangeshu temple. Shinsuke complains about the boy's honesty, and Tama quickly invents that she doesn't remember anything due to a fever, wandering in the mountains for a few days. Then the girl apologizes for causing them trouble. Later, Shinsuke goes to cut some wood, paying for their stay, using the task to vent all the anger he feels towards the Dangeshu for what they did to the girl without caring. In a flashback, it's shown when Shakugan returned to her village as a monster and lost control when she saw everyone who made her suffer, including her own father, who still had the money he received from the monk. Back to the present, Shinsuke continues cutting wood until Tama appears asking where his brother is because everything is ready for them to go to the main temple of the Dangeshu. Shinsuke explains that he hasn't seen Jinka and wonders how the monks managed to turn a human into Katawara, but Tama simply replies that she has no idea how they did it. The lady hosting the four finds the girl cute and asks her age. Tama answers that she's around 200 and something years old, but the lady finds it amusing, thinking it's just a child's joke. Later, Shinsuke goes to look for Jinka and finds him calmly near a cliff. He explains that everything is ready for them to leave, and the boy thanks him, saying that Shinsuke is a good employee, which annoys him since he was just doing him a favor. And so the group heads towards the main temple of the Dangeshu, with Shinsuke eager to make the monks pay for making Shakugan suffer and eliminating everyone in his village, although he recognizes he's far from being strong enough to face all of them. Then Shinsuke asks Jinka if he really intends to face the Dangeshu for what they did to Shakugan, considering she's a human he hates so much. The boy clarifies that his reason is different because the Dangeshu are humans hunting Katawara, and he sees the group as a bunch of vermin that needs to be exterminated. This scares Shinsuke, and Jinka notices the fear in his eyes. Shinsuke tries to deny and act brave, saying he's not afraid of a kid like him. Then Shinsuke says he'll accompany the two until he becomes strong enough, but Jinka tells him that if something happens to him, it's not their problem. After walking for a while, the four reach the valley, where according to Shakugan, the main temple is right in the middle, making it easy to locate. Tama climbs onto Shinsuke's head to get better view and asks Shakugan if that's where her operation took place. She agrees, and Jinka thinks that to reach the temple, they have to cross the gates and go through the building to the inner area. His sister reminds them that their goal is just to scare the monks into stopping the experiments, believing not all of them are wrongdoers. Next, the girl asks Shakugan and Shinsuke to stay with her, watching the situation from the top of a mountain while Jinka takes care of everything. Her brother warns that the situation might take longer than usual, making her a bit sad. And so after the two activate the transfiguration technique again, the siblings split up and Tama goes with the others to the top of a mountain, while Jinka heads to the temple. Upon arriving, he's excited about the idea of breaking down the temple gates, but to his surprise, the Dangeshu open the doors, showing they're prepared to face him, thanks to Inga, who was waiting for his arrival. The monk assures Jinka he'll have an extraordinary funeral and orders the others to attack. The boy thanks them for the welcome, eager to face so many humans at once. Then, everyone strikes him in various parts of his body, but the Dangeshu soon realize it was just a shikigami and he was actually on the roof. At that moment, Jinka prepares to use the monarch's earthly fist on them while, nearby, Shakugan, Shinsuke, and his sister strain to see the fight from the top of the mountain. Jinka continues attacking the monks when Inga suddenly shoots his leg with a shotgun. The boy remains firm and beats the Dangeshu, giving them a beating with his staff. However, when he's about to attack Inga, Jinka realizes the monks are about to use their secret technique, the roar of the celestial tremor. After the attack, Shinsuke becomes concerned about Jinka due to the magnitude of the explosion caused by the secret technique of the Dangeshu. Inga thinks he has defeated the boy, but then Jinka attacks him and the other monks with fury, making him realize that the boy lives up to his master, even though he knows that Jinka's spiritual energy won't last forever. Sometime later, Tama observes that the fighting has stopped and deduces that her brother has managed to win and proceed on the path to the temple castle, where the Dangeshu conduct experiments on humans. At that moment, Shinsuke notices that despite the girl being a Katawara in human form, she still has fox ears. Tama then reveals that she also has human ears and explains that the fox ears are to remind her of who she truly is and are also useful for good hearing. Shinsuke asks if Tama would cease to be a Kadawara if she forgets who she is, but the fox explains that it wouldn't change her nature, and that she simply likes to keep her ears during transfiguration out of habit. Then Shinsuke asks if Jinka can maintain his Kadawara form by using the transfiguration technique for a long time, and Tama explains that the technique ends shortly before permanent transformation, so he couldn't remain as a Kadawara forever. Meanwhile, in the temple forest, Jinka is observed by the Dangeshu and their leader Yazen, who is disappointed with his monks for allowing a simple boy to do as he pleases. The leader decides that the best course of action is to move the laboratory to a place where they won't be bothered. At the same time, Jinka observes Yazen talking and suspects that he is the boss. Next, the leader assigns one of the monks to deal with Jinka. The man faces the boy alone, confident that he will win and make him regret messing with the Dangeshu. The monk transforms into a creature and Jinka deduces that he is one of the enhanced humans who underwent the experiment. The creature advances and grabs the boy, but Jinka easily turns the tables, crushing him with a technique called the flail of the ancient tree. Then Inga appears and notices that the boy is getting tired of using so many attacks. He asks Jinka about his goal in confronting the Dangeshu, pointing out that even if he defeats the monks, he will be hunted for the rest of his life. Ignoring Inga, Jinka understands that the man was just trying to buy time until reinforcements arrive. As a reward for Inga challenging him so much, Jinka decides to answer his question and reveal what he's seeking. Jinka explains that his goal is to steal all the Dangeshu's research material to perfect his master's transfiguration technique. His dream is to rid himself of his human part and become a true and complete Kadawara. After explaining his objective, Jinka continues on his path, leaving Inga surprised by his goal. The monk observes that despite being a human traveling with a fox yukai, the boy is more demonic than her. Jinka moves forward until he reaches the castle that Shakugan explained is where the experiments take place. However, he doesn't know how much longer his spiritual strength will be able to sustain transfiguration. Excited to fulfill his goal and destroy the facility, Jinka attacks when suddenly the castle moves and a giant hand hits him, sending him flying. At that moment, Tama returns to normal and realizes that her brother's transfiguration has unraveled, meaning he is either conscious or dead. Everyone worries about Jinka when suddenly one of the Dangeshu appears on Inga's orders, instructing him to capture Shakugan alive or dead and eliminate the other two. The monk transforms into a creature and Tama comments that he is one of the enhanced humans. This triggers Shakugan's memories of when she was in her monster form. Shinsuke pretends they are just travelers who know nothing about the Dangeshu or their experiments. He begs the monk to spare their lives, but it's evident he is lying since he referred to a monster as a monk. Despite his fear of being attacked, Shinsuke continues to plead for his life, hugging the creature to delay him as much as possible so that Tama and Shakugan can seize the opportunity to escape. He is determined to be stronger and not flee like a coward. However, when the monster is about to attack, Shakugan transforms her arm into a Kadawara, sending the creature flying, saving Shinsuke and rendering the opponent unconscious. She explains that she remembered everything she had forgotten, recalling when she attacked all the people in her village, including children and her own father. Haunted by these memories, Shakugan begins to feel like a monster and runs away from the two. Shinsuke tries to follow, but Tama advises him to let her go, as the memories of the terror and suffering she caused are currently controlling her mind. Ignoring the fox's advice, he goes after Shakugan. This reminds Tama of when she lost a man named Genzo, who was very important to her. When he was almost lifeless, he handed her a letter to deliver to Kokogetsusai, the monk who trained Jinka, and then passed away, even though the girl pleaded for him not to leave. In a flashback, we see Jinka as a child. He was with the Kadawara, and the two were heading towards a mountain, but on the way, they come across several humans warring among themselves. Because of this, the Kadawara decided it was better for them to return to Master Kokogetsusai. Upon witnessing the war, Jinka was filled with questions that his friend couldn't answer, such as which side would win or how many would survive the battle. He also asked why humans were fighting, and the Kadawara responded that he believed it was something inherent in human life. During the journey back, they encounter a monster feeding on the bodies eliminated in the war. The Kadawara hides Jinka with his hand and turns back, but at that moment, some humans spot the monsters and start a hunt. The Kadawara tries to escape, but realizing he was getting surrounded, he hides Jinka in some bushes and instructs him to stay hidden until everything becomes silent. Jinka obeys his friend, but when it's all over, he comes out of hiding and finds Kadawara's lifeless body riddled with arrows, marking the beginning of Jinka's hatred for humans. Next, the boy notices a wounded man nearby who is still trying to eliminate monsters. So Jinka grabs a sword from the ground and ends the man's life. Back in the present, Jinka wakes up startled because he had dreamed about his past about losing his friend to humans. Suddenly, he hears Yazen's voice communicating with him through a fabric shikigami. Yazen comments on Jinka's survival after the blow from Taisen, the main temple castle of the Dangishu, which sent him flying. Yazen then introduces himself to Jinka as the leader of the monks and mentions that he'll have to send assassins after him to silence him since he knows too much. Jinka mocks Yazen, thinking that no one can defeat him, but Yazen ignores him and asks about Kokugetsuse. Jinka replies that his master has passed away. Yazen says that's all he needs to know and bids farewell, dissolving the fabric shikigami. Meanwhile, Shinsuke searches for Shakugan in the forest. He was already tired from running but refuses to give up on finding his friend. Suddenly, he stumbles on a tree branch and rolls to the edge of a cliff, where coincidentally the girl was reflecting on her actions. As soon as Shakugan sees Shinsuke, she starts running, but before disappearing again, he questions why she is running away. She explains that she wants to be alone since she is a monster and a killer who has hurt many people. Shinsuke tries to tell Shakugan that she didn't do it willingly, as she was used by the monks. However, the girl says that even though her father indeed sold her to the Dangishu, she also bears responsibility for what happened because she willingly underwent the experiment when they offered power to her. Shinsuke questions what's wrong with wanting power, but at that moment, the ground beneath him gives way, leaving him hanging on the cliff. The girl gets worried, but when she sees he's okay, she takes the opportunity to escape. Shinsuke tries to climb alone to go after her, but ends up falling. Fortunately, a tree cushions his fall, bringing him safely to the ground. Then Tama appears, and before Shinsuke resumes searching for Shakugan, she asks why he is so determined to find the girl. Shinsuke explains that he doesn't really have a reason and simply feels that he shouldn't leave Shakugan alone at that moment. He believes that she and Jinka will never understand how humans truly feel. He turns to continue his search, but Tama throws a stick at his head to indicate that he's going in the wrong direction. And so the two go together to find Shakugan. At the same time, Jinka thinks that it's time to join his sister. He walks through the forest to reach her when he finds some arrows in a tree, reminding him of the horrible dream he had. This makes Jinka think that if he were as strong as he is now, he could have saved his friend. But then he realizes that he shouldn't dwell on that and should be grateful for acquiring the power that prepared him to show humans the depth of darkness. Suddenly, his thoughts are interrupted by Shakugan, who appears running in the forest. He's surprised that her arm is in Katawara form and she's happy to see that the boy is alive. Then Shinsuke appears and jumps on the girl. Tama arrives right behind him and is happy to see her brother, who was confused and didn't understand what was happening. Shakugan tries to escape Shinsuke's embrace, but he continues to hold her. He tells her she can't run away from herself and that she's not a monster but human. Afterward, he says that weak people have no choice and can't overcome oppression, so it's natural to desire strength and power. Then Shinsuke starts crying and asks why Shakugan isn't happy now that she has the power. She doesn't understand his sadness, and they both start crying together. Tama and Jinka observe them and are reminded again of their losses. Then the fox tells her brother that just as there are kind and cruel Katawaras, there are also humans of both types. She also reminds him that he himself is human and should overcome his hatred for his kind, no matter how long it takes. Afterward, Tama asks Shakugan to join them. Jinka questions her decision as he knew assassins would come after them, and he thought it would be safer to keep Shinsuke and Shakugan away from that situation. But Tama disagrees, stating that in their group there's a Katawara, a human, and something in between, and that he has the power to protect all three. This way he could learn from them how to live his life. And so in times of war between humans and Katawara, monsters devour people while being hunted by them simultaneously. In a small group, humans and Katawaras walk hand in hand. Afterward, the gang heads to the house of Jinka's master, Kokugetsuse, where the boy was raised and lived alone for some time after the monk's death until he reunited with his sister. There, Shinsuke trains with Jinka, and unsurprisingly, the guy gets a beating. Meanwhile, Tama prepares an outfit for Shakugan to avoid any issues when transforming her arms into Katawara. Jinka wonders if he'll ever feel at ease in that house when a creature appears to greet him and Tama. The monster explains that it came to warn them about a Katawara demanding a sacrifice from a village, even though it provides no protection to the villagers, a task for the siblings of World Renewal, as Tama and Jinka are called. And so the two set out to investigate the village's situation, and the fox leaves some tasks for Shinsuke and Shakugan to do until their return. However, the girl goes out to gather some vegetables, leaving all the heavy lifting for Shinsuke. In the village, Tama and her brother discover that the villagers refer to the sacrificing Katawara as the Great Guragura, and the fox assures the villagers that they can handle the problem for them. Initially, the people refuse help, thinking the siblings are seeking payment for their service, but Tama explains that they have no interest in money and only wish to be treated kindly and helped by the locals at least once, so they can repay the favor by helping others in turn. All the villagers see Tama as crazy, but she is proud of her motivational speech, thinking that they will become kinder thanks to her help. Then a village boy guides the two siblings to the Katawara, and along the way, Tama continues to believe that she will create a wave of kindness with her work. Jinka then remarks that renewing the world with that tactic might take 1,000 years, but his sister remains undeterred because to her, if the world is better, after 1,000 years, she will have fulfilled her duty. Jinka wonders how long they will be the world renewal siblings traveling the world fighting evil when the boy guiding them named Mokichi stops in the middle of the road to complain about the delay in help because his mother was devoured by the great Garagura the day before. He is furious that the two did not arrive sooner and expresses hope that they too will be devoured by the monster. Jinka thinks about how humans only care about themselves and do not deserve his sister's love. However, the fox is also angry with the boy and rebukes him, saying that if he wants perfect help, he must find a way to become a flawless savior himself. After yelling and scolding the boy for his attitude, the three finally reach the place where the Katawara lives. Tama asks the great Garagura why it demands sacrifices from the village, and the monster explains that it's its payment for not destroying the place. The fox comments that this is unjust and gives 3 options to the great Garagura: repent for its misdeeds and ask for forgiveness, or take a beating and then ask for forgiveness or die from a beating. However, the creature ignores the fox's words and launches an attack on the 3. Jinka quickly lifts Tama and the boy into the air to protect them from the strike. He says that despite hating to face Katawaras, he cannot ignore the fact that it tried to harm his sister and promises to make the monster pay. The great Garagura becomes afraid of the boy and immediately takes a woman out of his belly who hadn't been digested yet to have a hostage to protect himself from Jinka. The boy contemplates taking action before his sister says anything, but at that moment, Mokichi starts begging the monster not to harm his mother and to use him as a hostage instead. So Tama lets Jinka decide how to proceed. He thinks his choice is obviously to ignore the hostage since he didn't care about humans. However, he can ignore the child crying for his mother. Suddenly, a man appears and swiftly eliminates the great Garagura. He calls Jinka a disciple of Kokogetsusai, the Phoenix Slayer, as his master used to be called, showing that he knows the boy. And so, while Mokichi reunites with his mother, Jinka and Tama discover that the man who eliminated Katawara is one of the assassins the Dangeshu said they would send after them. The man comments that he's a bit disappointed with Jinka because the monks said he's a monster in human skin, unable to see the boy in that way. Then he takes Mokichi and his mother hostage to force Jinka into a duel, preventing the siblings from escaping. Jinka thinks he doesn't care at all about what happens to humans, but for some reason, he can't ignore the hostages. Because of this, Jinka and the man go to a rock-free area for their duel, where Tama instructs him to introduce himself. The man says his name is Zanzu Reidu and that he's one of the Dark Eaters. He explains that the Dangeshu sends him after a Katawara and he eliminates them, selling the pieces to people who consume monster flesh, which he sees as normal since Katawara feed on humans, creating a two-way street. The siblings are taken aback as they didn't know there were people who consume creatures, and Jinka is furious that the Katawara, which he venerates, are chewed by human teeth, dishonoring their bodies. Then Jinka introduces himself to Reidu as a monster, and they begin to fight. Jinka confronts his opponent with a technique called Flame Princess's Roar. The man uses his sorcerer's sword to block the attack and then launches a strike, making Jinka use the earthly monarch's fist to protect himself. The boy notices that Reidu's sword has great spiritual power. He then attacks with his techniques called Ancient Tree's Scourge and Dragon's Water Wall. Tama watches the two fight alongside Mokichi and his mother and notes that the man forced his brother to use 4 of his main techniques. After a while, they become exhausted from fighting, and Reidu admits he can't defeat Jinka with his sorcerer's sword. The boy asks if he's surrendering, but Reidu explains he's just switching to a weapon that can defeat him. Jinka is puzzled because he doesn't sense any spiritual power from Reidu's new sword and doesn't understand why Reidu chose to fight with a normal weapon. Then the man advances toward him, dodging all the earthly monarch's fists, and attacks Jinka, who defends himself with his staff, growing increasingly irritated with the duel when suddenly his defense fails, and Reidu manages to place the sword at his neck. Jinka thinks he's about to lose his life, but the man merely holsters his weapon, leaving the boy relieved to be alive. This causes the transfiguration to lose its effect, and he returns to his human form. Jinka then asks why Reidu didn't kill him. The man explains that he doesn't seem appetizing, and it's not cool to eliminate prey if he's not going to feed on them. Therefore, the boy got lucky and will continue to live. Next, Reidu asks the fox to knock some sense into his brother's head and gets ready to leave. Mokichi and his mother thank him for saving her when he defeated Katawara, but the man says they should thank Jinka, because if the boy hadn't fought, he would have devoured them both. Reidu then departs, and Mokichi's mother thanks Jinka and Tama for their help. The boy apologizes for wishing them harm, but Jinka simply walks away without a word, feeling he doesn't deserve gratitude since he did nothing and almost abandoned them. His sister explains that although he considered it, he didn't abandon them. However, his brother was only concerned about losing to a mere human. Later, Rado feeds on the great Gura, realizing its taste is only slightly better than its appearance and certainly not something that can be sold. At this moment, one of the Dangishu questions why he didn't eliminate Jinka, even though he won the duel. The Dangishu reminds Rado that his sister's life is in their hands, and he must face the boy again and end his life. The next day, Shinsuke was sore from doing the activities alone. Tama wakes up and asks where her brother is, and Shakugan explains she saw him leaving early in the morning. Jinka was alone, contemplating the previous day's fight. He spends a long time recalling how he lost to a human when he notices someone approaching. Before attacking, Jinka recognizes it's Shakugan, and she explains she came to invite him to lunch, but he tells her to go away, saying he's not hungry. Shakugan then mentions she heard about what happened and is glad Jinka survived the fight because as long as he's alive, good things will happen. Jinka asks what good things happened since she was exiled from her village, sold by her own father, and turned into a half-Katawara. She explains that despite everything, she's happy to have met him, Tama, and Shinsuke. She insists Jinka join her for lunch when they see a monk delivering a challenge letter to the boy, explaining that Jinka will have to face Rado again, but this time their lives are at stake. If he tries to escape, the Yamato clan will be exterminated. Jinka says he doesn't care about what happens to the clan residents, and the monk finds it amusing that the boy, abandoned by the Yamato, chooses their fate. Later, Jinka and Shakugan return home and recount what happened. Shinsuke is furious and calls the Dangishu cowards, asking why they threatened the clan. Tama explains it's where Jinka's family lives. Then the boy reveals he has no relationship with his parents because his master adopted him right after he was born. His sister asks what he will decide, and Jinka explains that although he doesn't care about the fate of the Yamato clan, he can't accept being defeated by a human. And so Jinka decides to accept the challenge despite fearing the outcome of the fight, understanding that he needs to find a way to win to survive. On the next day, Rado and Jinka are set to face each other again, with the whole group watching the fight alongside the Dangishu. However, as soon as the duel begins, the boy realizes he made the wrong decision. Despite managing to adjust his attacks according to his opponent, Rado goes beyond and surpasses him. In that moment, Jinka sees his entire life flash before his eyes, thinking this might be the end. However, this determination prompts him to find a way out. Jinka then employs his monarch's earthly fist technique to crush his opponent, disregarding the fact that he will suffer the attack along with Rado. The blow leaves both of them battered, breaking Rado's weapon, and the boy starts laughing. He claims that being brought to the brink of death awakened his true fighting spirit. However, unlike Jinka, Rado can barely stand after being crushed and admits defeat, making the boy release a sinister laugh for having defeated the human. Tama is relieved to see her brother emerge victorious, fearing the loss of another important person to her. As the transfiguration effect wears off, Rado prepares for his end, but Jinka tells him he's lucky and will keep on living, the same words the man said to him after defeating him in their last duel. Tama is proud of her brother's attitude, while Shakugan and Shinsuke are impressed by his fighting abilities. Tama explains that the three of them were cheering for Jinka and asks if having human comrades was really that bad. Meanwhile, Rado still can't stand and worries about what the Dangishu will do to his sister since he lost the fight. The monk who ordered the duel explains that he received a message from Rado's sister, stating that if he lost, she would be the next assassin. Rado is confused, and the Dangishu clarify that his sister's life was never in their hands because none of them can match her. In reality, she is one of their 4 beast leaders. The monk advises Rado to forget about his sister, as she has forsaken humanity to become a demon of war. A few days later, Jinka and Tama follow Shinsuke to the entrance of a cave and discover that he's taking a rice ball to Rado, who, in exchange for food, was training Shinsuke how to handle a sword. Rado calmly eats his meal while noticing that the guy has good vertical strikes, although he needs to improve his lateral ones. He then instructs Shinsuke to relax his shoulders and pay attention to the sound the air makes, explaining that when he executes the correct strike, the sound will be different. With his advice, Shinsuke manages to execute a correct lateral strike, while the 2 brothers watch from a hiding spot in a bush, and Jinka remarks that the guy deserves a beating for raiding their pantry. Jinka then calls out to Shinsuke, startling him since he hadn't noticed the presence of the boy and his sister, unlike Rado, who spotted them hiding. Shinsuke quickly explains that Rado isn't a bad man, and as a result, the man is taken to Jinka's house so the group can tend to his fight wounds, where he takes the opportunity to explain why he ended up with the Dangishu group. Rado explains that his clan doesn't have much political power, but they possess a lot of spiritual strength, which often embroils them in battles against the Katawaras, and as a result, they try not to attract attention. However, because he still needed to eat, he became a cum darkness, while his sister became a nun of the Dangeshu. Radio explains that she has average spiritual power compared to the other monks, and thus the leaders of the order could eliminate her at any time, which is why he obeyed the Dangeshu, although he discovered that in reality his sister, Hino, gained fame among the monks and became Hygen, one of the 4 beast leaders of the group and apparently the next assassin to go after Jinka. Then the boy explains that it was pure luck to have defeated Radu without delivering any fatal blows, and his sister might not have the same luck, but the man says that maybe she'll defeat him instead of the other way around. Meanwhile, Tama reflects that Hygen, the new name for Hino, means frozen rock, a name similar to Shakugan's, which makes her and Jinka suspicious that Radu's sister might be another person spiritually modified. Next, Shinsuke sees a creature resembling a tree trunk approaching the house and gets scared, but then discovers that it's a friend of Jinka's. The creature is injured and explains that a woman appeared out of nowhere and chased him away, sending a warning that she's after the boy. Immediately, everyone suspects Hygen, and Rado tries to go after his sister, but still being injured, he struggles to get up and Jinka apologizes, explaining that he'll have to eliminate her for injuring one of their mountain friends. So the boy leaves and Tama asks Shinsuke and Shakugan to stay in the house to take care of their friend while they're away, but Shakugan insists on going along and Shinsuke realizes he'll be alone with the creature. And thus the whole group, except for Shinsuke, goes to where Hygen was spotted. The woman is happy to see her brother, and they start talking, but Jinka interrupts them, eager to fight and make her pay for what she did to his friend. Tama notices how worked up the boy is and tells him to cool his head. Then the two activate their transformation and Jinka morphs. So Hygen also activates her Katawara form and introduces herself as one of the 4 beast leaders of the Dangeshu, who is on a mission to defeat Jinka. She remarks that this will earn her entire clan, including her brother, a place among the monks, making Radu realize that this is the reason she joined them. Jinka prepares to begin their fight when suddenly Shakugan recognizes Hygen, because when they were just Katawara and they were called Kagen and Soga, they used to be friends. This confirms Tama's guess that modified humans are actually Katawaras sealed within the bodies of humans with spiritual power, with Kagen sealed within Shaku and Soga within Hino. At this moment, the woman corrects, saying that her name is now Hygen, and that neither the human nor the Katawara exist anymore. This makes Jinka even more irritated, finding the human modification that the Dangeshu do increasingly cruel, especially for playing with the lives of the Katawara. He tells Shakugan to step aside to let the two fight, but the girl says that Soba is a friend of Kagen's and therefore she cannot let him hurt her. Hygen realizes that this means the consciousness of Katawara has remained within Shakugan and calls the girl weak because of it, explaining next that her mission is to eliminate not only Jinka, but her as well. This angers Kagen, the Katawara within Shakugan, for Hygen treating the girl who accepted him into her body that way and questions if his friend Soba is indeed her partner. Then Hygen reveals that she had already devoured the consciousness of the Katawara a long time ago because it was unnecessary. At that moment, Kagen becomes extremely angry and asks Jinka to leave that fight to him. The boy accepts his request, releasing his transformation and says he wants to be his friend. Then the Katawara explains that Shaku, and you're a single being that divides the body into 2 minds, and as the girl considers him a friend, he also has the same consideration. Next, Shakugan attacks Hygen with all her might using a move called Celestial Tremor Roar. The woman is impressed with her ability but manages to resist easily and attacks her using the same technique, although much more powerful. Fortunately, Shakugan also resists, and the two continue to fight bravely. Jinka observes that Shakugan coordinates the consciousness of the Katawara and the girl well and maintains the balance of her spiritual power, despite her opponent being at the same level as when he is transformed, which puts Shakugan at a slight disadvantage. Meanwhile, Shinsu feeds Jinka's friend with some worms, while noting that the creature is not as sinister as he initially thought. At this moment, the creature asks if he's a friend of Jinka's too, and Shinsu replies that he doesn't know if the boy considers him that way. Then the creature asks him to be patient with Jinka, because despite being stubborn, he takes good care of his friends. Shinsuke responds that he has already noticed that and then decides to leave to find more worms. However, as soon as he leaves the house, he suddenly feels cold and senses the presence of a little boy named Senya next to his master, Jinan. And looking into the boy's eyes, Shinsuke sees him in a river of blood. The two decide to leave, and shortly after, the creature leaves the house, commenting that he smelled a dragon. Then he shows a shortcut for Shinsuke to reach Jinka, telling them to flee as far away as possible. And so Shinsuke arrives at the group where Shakugan and Hygen were already tired from so much fighting. Jinka questions why the guy is there, thinking he abandoned his friend alone, but Shinsuke explains that the creature itself sent him to inform them that it sensed the smell of a dragon and that they should flee. Hygen immediately thinks of Master Jinin, while Jinka becomes desperate and orders everyone to run. However, at that moment, the dragon finds them. Jinin states that he is there to execute Hygen, who is accused of killing a high-ranking official of the shogunate. The woman questions if he has any proof and says she's in the middle of a mission, but Jinin says it's not his concern to worry about proof, only to administer justice. And so, in a matter of seconds, he transforms into a dragon and strikes Hygen with a fatal blow without giving any of them time to react. Then Jinin returns to his human form and addresses Jinka, recognizing the boy as the one responsible for attacking the main temple of the Dangishu. Quickly, Jinka grabs his sister and creates a smokescreen, telling everyone to take advantage of the moment to flee and regroup in the loser's cave. Then Jinka, transformed Shinsuke and Hyoudou try to attack the dragon, but Senya protects his master with a Katawara arm, delivering a fatal blow to the three. However, the boy soon realizes that attack was not real, but just a distraction for everyone to escape. Gradually, the group regroups in the loser's cave as Jinka instructed, and Tama notices that her brother was quite frightened. Shakugan manages to bring Hino still alive thanks to her vitality being increased by the spiritual modification process, although she doesn't have much time left. Hyoudou asks his sister if she really killed a shogun official, and the woman explains that Lord Matsunaga ordered her to eliminate Lord Nagiyoshi Miyoshi, the shogun's assistant. Hyoudou doesn't understand why, since the Dangishu are not allowed to use their powers to influence politics. Then Hino questions if only their clan is forbidden from having any kind of ambition just because they were born with spiritual power. She asks if their family doesn't deserve to be happy, considering their clan has been relegated to the underworld for years. The woman tells Hyoudou that his talent with the sword can help the clan, wishing they achieve the fame they deserve. However, her brother responds that none of them ever wish for great ambitions like her, and that no one needs fame or anything else to be happy. Then Hino mocks Hyoudou, and suddenly she grows and says she won't give up on freeing him from the darkness. Later, the woman says she knows she won't be accepted by the Dangishu, but she's sure Lord Matsunaga will give her shelter and that, to survive, she only needs to feed on a Katawara. Then Hinama starts heading towards Tama, leaving Hyoudou and Shakugan worried about the fox, but at that moment, Jinka attacks Hino to protect his sister. Hyoudou watches the situation, knowing that this is the end of a woman's life. He laments and says that it's not destiny that dictates their happiness, but their heart. Afterwards, Jinka prepares to end Hino's life, wishing her a safe journey to the other side. Before dying, the woman comments that she wished to be human, those being her last words. Shakugan then mourns the death of his friend, not understanding why Hino decided to join him if the two couldn't coexist. Tama tries to console her friend and then instructs her brother to confront Jinin because they couldn't keep running away from the dragon forever. Even if Jinka could handle all the other assassins, Jinin would still be after him. Due to this, the only option is to face him. Shinsuke asks if it's possible, and Tama says that to ensure Jinka isn't defeated, they need to take 3 steps to prepare. The first step is to find the Dangishu laboratory and put an end to the cruel experiments with the Katawara once and for all. Next, they must steal the research results from the monks and gather information to help them defeat the dragon. Finally, they should use what they discover to escape, buying time to prepare for the inevitable encounter. These steps intertwine what they need to do to overcome the opponent with the mission of stopping the experiments. Shakugan then mentions that before doing all this, the Katawara inside her body wants to take her friend's remains back to their home. Despite not knowing the location, she can find it by the smell. Tama agrees to fulfill the Katawara's wish before starting the 3 planned steps. Hyoudou wishes the group good luck and decides to stay to bury his sister. Tama remarks that the dragon, Jinin, might be strong, but to her he's just a pup half her age. They will escape as many times as necessary to ensure her brother can defeat him. After all, Jinin is just a master who loves preaching about justice but refuses to talk and abuses his strength. And so the 4 set off on their new journey. Shinsuke reflects that what began as a path for survival has turned into a profound contemplation of what defines humans and Katawaras. Before the group set off, Shinsuke received a weapon from Hyoudou called the Arabuki Sorcerer's Sword, which has the power to control winds through spiritual abilities. The man explained that the weapon is passed down from generation to generation in his clan, but as he is now going to serve and protect the shogun, Yashiteru, and his family, so that his services pay for the actions his sister committed, he will give it to Shinsuke, because the boy will surely need the spiritual sword to face Lord Yoshiteru, who is known for having a natural talent, just like a master swordsman. Later, Hyoudou asked Shinsuke to teach the monk a lesson, so that he pays for what he did to his sister, and the boy accepts to do it for him. After all, the man was asking for his help and giving him his spiritual sword as a gift. Back in the present, Shinsuke feels great during the journey for having his spiritual weapon, but when he tries to wield the sword, he causes an explosion that throws him away. Jinka explains that this is what happens when someone without spiritual power uses the sword, and he was lucky not to be sliced or thrown into the clouds, which could very well have happened, making the guy stop feeling confident and return to feeling weak. After walking a lot, the group stops to rest, and while Tama sleeps on Shakugan's lap, the girl comments that she is excited about the trip, and that they are getting close to Kagan's house, the Kadawara inside her body. However, Shinsuke and Jinka were not enjoying the journey like her, because they were not excited about the idea of being close to facing the Dragon Man, especially because Shinsuke still didn't know how to use his spiritual sword. Shakugan cheers up her friend, saying that he will surely manage, but Jinka immediately says that his comment was without any basis. Shinsuke starts complaining that Jinka always discourages him when suddenly Tama wakes up smelling something with her fox-like sense of smell. She quickly runs in the direction of the smell until she reaches a group of monkeys who were carrying several barrels of sake, and starts negotiating her turnips for one of them, desperate to get some of the drink. The monkeys explain that they cannot give anything because the barrels belong to a guest, and that's why she must negotiate with him. So the group goes after this guest, and on the way they explain to Shinsuke that the monkeys are Kadawara monkeys who love alcohol. Tama comments that Kagan must know about them, and then Kadawara takes control of Shakugan's body, explaining that the girl doesn't mind him doing that and says he is excited to try the legendary drink of the monkeys. After a while, the four arrive at the monkeys' host, Doran, a Dangishu, who recognizes the group responsible for the attack on the main temple. The team gets into a defensive position when they realize that the man is one of the monks, but Doran introduces himself as the Tiger, one of the four beast leaders of the Dangishu, but reassures them, explaining that he won't attack any of them. After all, no one ordered it. Then Tama gets excited again and challenges Doran to a drinking contest, feeling confident because she knows they have an advantage, since the man had already drunk a lot and wouldn't be able to drink much longer. And so they begin the challenge, but Jinka proves to be extremely weak at drinking sake, getting knocked down at the first sip, while the other three get super excited drinking the legendary monkey drink. While they drink, Tama praises Doran for maintaining his composure after discovering that the group is responsible for the temple attack, and asks what led a Dangishu like him to visit the monkey folks. The man agrees to tell how he came to that and begins to explain that he was sent by the monks to exterminate a Kadawara tiger that was roaming the mountain. He says the beast proved to be very fierce, forcing him to flee through the forest, leading him to encounter the monkey folks who were trembling in fear of the tiger. Doran recounts that after that, he devised a strategy to use sake as bait to attract the tiger. His plan left the tiger dizzy, but the animal still proved to be a strong opponent, and after a two-night battle, he was severely injured and the tiger sobered up again. The man explains that at that moment he thought it was his end, but two of the monkeys gathered courage and hit the beast with one of the barrels, leaving the tiger dizzy again, creating the perfect opportunity for him to end that fight with a powerful blow, and that's when the friendship between him and the monkey folks emerged. After a long time of drinking, Doran, who loved to chat while having sakes, says the group can ask anything else they want to know because he will answer any questions. So Tama takes the opportunity to ask what Jinan, the Dragon Man's weakness, is, so they can find a way to defeat him. Doran jokes that he has a weakness for spicy food, but then tells the group not to waste time thinking about it, because he will be the one to defeat the Dragon Man, as they are old rivals from the same city. Doran explains that he became one of the Dangishu following in Jinan's footsteps, dedicating his entire life to surpassing him in martial arts, and that's why he is the only one who can defeat him. With this, Tama deduces that Doran is also one of the spiritually modified humans who have a Kadawara inside their bodies. The man refuses to answer, explaining that he wants to leave that mystery, and then praises the fox's resistance to alcohol, making her remember the first time she tasted sake with her old friend Genzo, who died from an illness. Then they refocus on the challenge and start laughing, each thinking they will be the one to win. However, at night, Tama can't hold on and falls asleep, as well as Shinsuke, leaving only Shakugan and Doran standing. But he was already getting dizzy and couldn't drink anymore, while the Kadawara remained lively with the drink and showed no sign of wanting to stop. And so the next day, everyone wakes up with a hangover, except for Shakugan and Jinka, because she proved strong with alcohol while he only took a sip. The group prepares to leave, and Doran, still recovering from the night before, says that in their next encounter, Jinka and he will fight, so the boy shouldn't let himself be defeated by Reshin, the next assassin who will come after them. Then the four continue their journey, and Shinsuke comments that he was surprised to see a Dangishu making friends with Kadawaras, but Jinka says that nothing prevents him from eliminating the monkeys later. Shinsuke says he doesn't think that will happen. After all, he could have attacked the group during the night and didn't, but Jinka still doesn't trust a Dangishu. At this moment, Shakugan interrupts their discussion because she wants the journey to be peaceful and fun. Jinka then asks if she's on the side of humans or Kadawaras, and she responds that she is only on the side of her friends. And so they continue on the path, and after another long journey, the four arrive in a village surrounded by a barrier blocking their passage. Jinka considers taking the detour, but Shakugan explains that for some reason, Kagan insists on going through that path, and Tama respects his decision since they were heading to his homeland. So Jinka reflects that he can create a temporary hole in the barrier for only one of them to pass through, and Tama volunteers to go, negotiating their passage with the village residents. And so Jinka opens a hole in the barrier and the fox crosses, but only later does his brother realize that she has never negotiated anything in her life, which concerns Shakugan and Shinsuke. Tama walks through the area without encountering anyone despite finding no signs of a trap. Suddenly, a Katawara appears, introducing itself as Fuko, the one responsible for the barrier protecting the village. Tama asks what he is protecting everyone from, and the creature explains that the barrier shields them from changes, ensuring that sadness never appears and happiness lasts forever. Fuko asks if Tama has ever wished for nothing to change, and despite the fox's denial, the creature reads her thoughts and realizes she desired it when she lost her friend, wishing that the day of his death never arrived. Later, Fuku comments that he can also protect Tama from changes. Meanwhile, the group wonders why the fox is taking so long since the barrier continues to block their passage. At that moment, Reshin, one of the four beast leaders of the Dangeshu, appears to punish Jinka for invading the main temple. Shinsuke notices that Jinka cannot use his transformation being far from his sister, so he decides to use his spiritual sword to protect his friend. However, Jinka perceives his intention and says he will handle the monk even without Tama's power. Next, Reshin draws his weapon, emerging from his clothing, explaining that it's a special tool called the Sack of Myriads, received from Lord Yazen, allowing him to retrieve anything from any direction. Thus, the two begin to fight while Tama asks why Fuku is protecting the village. The Katawara explains that the residents feared the arrival of a worse day such as war or a plague, and this fear gave rise to him. Then Tama states that nothing guarantees the future will be worse and time heals all wounds, bringing various kinds of fruits, so the barrier is not helping the village and should be removed. Fuka refuses to do so, and in a moment of anger, Tama accidentally punches him, causing the creature to leave. Subsequently, Tama searches for him in the area, realizing the current state of the village. The fox then calls Fuko so they can talk. The creature appears, reiterating its intent to protect Tama and all the residents, preventing her from ever feeling the sadness she experienced when she lost her friend. Tama takes the opportunity to reveal that she was indeed very happy when she lived with Genzu and suffered greatly from his loss. However, time passed and she gained a foster brother and other friends, so she's happy with her current life. Fuko insists on protecting her happiness with a barrier, but Tama explains that it doesn't work that way because you won't be able to shield anyone from time. Then the fox mentions that the village was isolated from the rest of the world, leading to a tragic end since it lacked access to trade, traffic, and other necessities. This leaves Fuko feeling sad, and he explains that he was just following the purpose of his existence, which is basically to protect people from changes. Then Tama says that he fulfilled his duty and can now rest. She thanks the creature for doing a good job, making Fuku cry. It's the first time someone has thanked him for his service. And so the creature disappears, leaving in peace, causing the barrier to vanish in sequence. The disappearance of the barrier distracts Jinka in his fight, worry about his sister. So his opponent throws the boy away, sending him into the village. His friends are concerned, but seconds later he reappears in his transformed state and lands a powerful blow on Reshin, sending the Dangeshu flying. However, even though he defeats his opponent, Jinka seems a bit disappointed for not being able to win against the Dangeshu without transforming. Soon, he cheers up upon seeing Tama happy that her brother needed her. Shinsuke then asks how the fox managed to break the barrier, and she quickly explains that everyone in the village died without the world knowing, and a sad Katawara fulfilled its life purpose. And so, with the barrier gone, the group continues their journey, while Tama reflects that Katawaras have a longer lifespan than humans, meaning that at some point she will experience the pain of losing her brother, just like all her friends. Next week, we'll have more of this anime as soon as the new episode is released, so go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit the like button below to support this video. See you guys.